guys, I'm Trevor L. Nelson.
And I'm Alex Stark, and we are here with Cinema Summit.
In this video, Michael Rousselet shares his production tips and tricks that he used on Dudebro Party Massacre 3.
Check it out.
So, we had a decent budget. We raised enough, we met our goal, and we got an angel investor from Snoot, which was amazing. But we still were still under the wire because we had so many locations, we had so many speaking roles, we had so many kills that we insisted on doing with practical effects. So we needed makeup artists. It was a challenge to think about how we can actually do this under budget and get everything we need. So we had to be very creative with how we were going to spend the money. Everyone was getting minimum wage because legally we had to pay everybody. I mean, obviously. So, so no one was walking away with a paycheck, really. We had to consolidate location because, like, you had to get permits. You know, a location coordinator, like somebody from Film LA has to be there if you're shooting outside. It was a nightmare. I think there's a new law that if you're shooting even in your house, you need to have a site rep there. Even if you're shooting like a tiny thing in your house, someone could be a dick and shut it down. It's some bullshit. You know, check your Film LA info. I don't know, or just be quiet. So we were trying to think about what are the resources we have that we can use to make this film. We have a lot of costumes. We do have some fake skeletons, and we have body parts, fake body parts. And we were just making a list of things we had that we could use, that we had for free. Also, the biggest commodity we had was the house, the 5-second film house that we just shoot in everything. So we're like, let's think of a way that we can shoot as much as we can in this house and around it. So we actually modified it for, I don't know, it was the dean's office, it was the therapist's office, it was the cabin in the woods, it was a forest in the backyard, a bunch of kills. For the forest in the backyard, we had a conflict with Brian in his schedule. Brian and Maria were going to move back to London, and we had to shoot all of Brian's stuff out in June, and we were going to shoot all the other stuff in April. Even up in Big Bear. So how are we going to do the scene with Brian and Maria out in the woods, but we can't do that out in the woods because we don't have the money for that. And so I got the idea that since it was January, everyone's throwing away Christmas trees. So we drove around with a truck and we collected all the abandoned Christmas trees and literally just propped them up in our backyard and had this weird forest that, like, all the trees were like 8 feet tall. Like, that's it. And it worked, and no one caught on. Every time I tell people, like, yeah, those are all Christmas trees in the back for that big scene, they're like, what? Yeah, you don't fucking think about it. Of course, it was a huge fire hazard at the end because they just sat there for months and just died. Oh, those poor rats, their mansions of dead trees. So we built sets in the house for different scenes. The flats we built for the sets, we actually would just repaint them for another scene and rearrange the interior of the living room. You know, I'm not gonna say this, I might get in trouble with the landlord, but we were basically just, we treated that house like a set, like a studio. We just took it over. And yeah, and then the other stuff that we couldn't shoot in the house, the things that we wanted to do for the cabin up in the lake, for this lake joke. There's one joke we wanted, and we insisted the Dude Bros have to be in the water for this joke. And we went to Big Bear, and there's this like a summer camp that was closed during the springtime. We were going to shoot in November, but we're like, no, we can't shoot in November. It's going to snow. We're going to push production until the springtime, more time to write and prepare, and it'll be fine. So we went up there for a week, and guess what? On the last night, it fucking snowed. It snowed on my death scene. So we were shooting, so we had to, like, scrap my death scene. I had this mullet, I shaved a mullet in my head. I had to keep that mullet for another 3 weeks. I was so looking forward to cutting that mullet off. So we're shooting this scene. It's Mike James's death. He's playing ZQ, and he gets crushed by a tree. So we got this fake tree because we couldn't put a huge log on Mike James. It would kill him, and it would be very heavy to move this thing. So we got a fake tree. It was made out of, like, ceramic. It actually wasn't that expensive to rent. And while we were getting ready to shoot this scene, it started to snow, and we're like, oh fuck, what are we gonna do? Because in like an hour, it's gonna start dumping. So because, you know, right, that was a moment of a director huddle where we had to think about like, okay, plans have changed. What are we gonna do? Let's scrap my death scene and we'll shoot that back in LA. We can do it in Topanga Canyon. No one's gonna notice, you know, because I'm one of the directors. It's my death scene. It's just me. I can be held hostage for whatever. So we're gonna shoot all the wide shots first. We're gonna shoot all the wides out in the woods because this is why we're out here. We got to see that there are all these trees out here. And then we're going to shoot these close-ups because the tree falls on him. And he's pinned by this tree. And we have this whole scene where he's talking to another character pinned underneath a tree. So we figured out, like, well, let's just shoot that whole conversation and the kill in the cafeteria. So we had the production designer, Ian, collect all these pine cones and twigs and needles and stuff. And we laid down duvetine in the cafeteria and covered it in, you know, tree stuff, pines, and it looked like the woods. And then we brought in the fake tree and laid it down, and we shot it at an angle. John Salmon lit it so it matched all the lighting setup for the wide. And you can't tell the difference. It was all shot inside a cafeteria because it was pouring snow outside. And that's an example of, like, you know, because we're editors and we're camera savvy, we know how we could cheat a shot and get away with it. And then one of the characters, Jimmy Wong, is in a beef box. It's this big cardboard box. Don't ask, just watch the movie. And we're like, okay, well, Jimmy has to leave for a flight, so we're going to lose him tonight. Let's just have Jimmy wrap early, and we're going to shoot all of his scenes, you know, at home because he's just in a box. So we're shooting all these close-ups of him, like, in a box in our house in Los Angeles. And Tom was actually wearing the box in the wide shots because, like, Jimmy, you can just go home, catch your flight. And, like, the director's walking around in the box. So it's, like, another way to just kind of cheat things when you're under the gun. So let's see, some other kills. Fun kills we had. Tom came up with a lot of fun ideas for these practical effects. There's one where Tom gets killed. He gets his face shoved into an orange juicer. It's just like one of those spiraling cones, and his eyeball. So we have this shot with a dummy for the close-up of the eyeball, and it's just an egg. It's a hard-boiled egg, and I painted it for an eyeball, and then we just shove the eye into the grinder, and it starts grinding up this egg, and we're, like, pumping blood through it. But for the overhead shot looking down of, like, the guy, like, freaking out with blood spinning out in a circle because it's a juicer, Tom got a garden hose sprinkler, like one of those spiral sprinklers that just go, like, spin in a circle. And we hooked that up to this water extinguisher. It's like a fire extinguisher you just fill with water and you compress it with air. Bought it for $50, and we used that thing for everything because you could just compress it, fill it with, like, red juice, corn syrup, and just, like, shoot blood out. So Tom has made this mouthpiece and it's got this sprinkler going on. He's just shooting out blood everywhere. There's this Miracle Grow gun. It's like you hook it up to a hose, and the bottom case is like where they have all these, like, crystals and fertilizer, nutrients and stuff, and the water mixes with it and it shoots it out, and, like, that's how you can, like, spray your lawn and give it nutrients. So if you take out that container and you fill it with fake blood and you hold it upside down, when you shoot that hose, it's going to shoot red. So we bought an extension for the hose and brought it into our living room. And we have this fake chainsaw scene where they're, like, going at him with a chainsaw, and we're just shooting the actors with this hose, and we're just, oh man, our poor walls were just covered in this gross fucking corn syrup. It took forever to wipe it off. I think our walls are still kind of pink. But anyway, oh, okay, wow, that was a tangent. But to get to the cabin, so we're shooting out this scene in the lake, and we're like, okay, all the exteriors of the cabin, we're just gonna shoot the exteriors. And when the bros open the door, we cut to inside our house in Los Angeles. So we had our production designer, when we were out in Big Bear, repaint and reset the whole entire house and make it look like a cabin. So there are all these scenes when people are walking up into a cabin, they're in Big Bear, boom, now they're back in Los Angeles. It was crazy. God, that house was so disgusting. And I lived there. I lived in that house and it was just like there was no privacy for a month and a half. It was just constantly people there, and man, our neighbors hate us. Always filming. Always filming. Trying to think of any other fun cheats. Oh, there was one where we couldn't get an actor. Jimmy wasn't available for some reason, so we came up with this bit where his character is constantly being forced to dress in effeminate clothing because he's the pledge, and so they treat him like crap in the frat. And we decided to make him wear a wedding dress. So we had another actor one day just show up in the scene wearing a wedding dress and the bride's. So you're like, oh, it's Jimmy because I saw him putting on a wedding dress in that previous scene. And now clearly that's Jimmy with the veil down. You know, it's just little cheats because you have to juggle everyone's schedule, and that's a nightmare. You know, that's another reason why having a limited number of actors is good because there's so many schedules, especially when you're working for nothing. It's really hard to keep people focused. Like, don't take that job. I know it's a very good paying job, but you're gonna make it a movie. Stay right here. We did rear projection. The first thing we ever shot was actually us in the back of our car driving down Topanga Canyon, shooting plates for a rear projection. So we got this giant, I think it was a silk? No, it was muslin. Or no, it was a grid. But anyway, it was reflective enough. And we had a car in the driveway. We put up this giant thing and just shot it with a projector, and we just had it go on a loop, just shake the car. That was fun. We did some rear projection. Like Sminkle, when he's in the van, we had a whole rear projection of him driving his car. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was and I mean, we were just lucky because we planned it to be a B movie, so we knew what we were doing going in, that we could cut corners and get away with it for the sake of comedy. If you're going to make a movie, your first film, just be smart about what you have, what are your resources, you know, how many actors are you really shooting with. You know, it's better if the actor is one of your close friends who will commit and be there for all your filming. You know, if you have to shoot on weekends, shoot on weekends. Just piece by piece assemble that film.
Hey guys, remember all those times you were watching videos and you thought to yourself, you know, I should like this and subscribe and comment, but you didn't do it? Well, don't do that this time.
Now's your chance.
Yeah, just like, comment, and subscribe to this video down below and watch all our other cool stuff.
And if you really like us, which not many people do, make sure you check out cinemasummit.com for even more cool stuff. Like a rainbow of stuff.
Rainbow.